Hello. So when I was growing up, I was a pretty solid underachiever. I had a very impressive 2.5 GPA in high school that I very carefully maintained. So it was like not too good, but also not too bad. And I avoided math and science like the plague. But I like to hang around smart people and people who did really well in school because it made me feel smarter. I dated a lot of national merit scholars. Any national merit scholars out here today? I like guys with really big SAT scores. That was what I was into. So I dated a lot of guys who read very serious literature and saw very serious films. And I got taken to many of these for my own intellectual betterment. I was taken to see on a date The Pianist, which is a movie that sounds hilarious, but actually is not, I found out. Not a great date movie, to be honest. I got taken to Miyazaki's Spirited Away once, which I'm told is actually very good, but after 20 minutes, I just wanted to gouge my eyes out. God have mercy on me, and the power went out in the theater halfway through, and I still am thankful for that today. But by the time I graduated high school, I was kind of over all of this, and I realized that, dating these guys wasn't actually making me feel smarter. It was making me feel dumber and bored, and I wanted to make a change. I wanted to date another underachiever like myself when I went to college. So on the very first day I was there, I met the one, the underachiever for me, at a party. His name was Kurt. And I knew he was the one, first of all, because his name was Kurt. And if your first name is Kurt and your last name is not Vonnegut, you were probably not the greatest mind of your generation. Let's be honest. And then the second reason I knew is because we were at a party, and it wasn't a talk about documentaries and drink wine type of party. It was a party where people bonged beers and played beer pong. And the third reason I knew was because the first story he ever told me was about getting arrested for open container and how awesome it was and hilarious and totally worth it. And so I looked at him and I thought, this is it. This is the one I've been waiting for. And I looked into his beautiful hazel eyes, and I knew I would never read another book by an author named Jonathan again. And it was a glorious time in my life. I saw the movie Dodgeball with no judgment. I watched an entire season of Family Guy in one sitting. I ate box after box of Gushers fruit snacks. It was really just a great time to be alive. But after a while, I started to wonder if maybe Kurt was a little bit too much fun. For instance, one night we were sleeping, and I woke up in the middle of the night to a warm and wet feeling. And I realized that Kurt had had so much to drink that he had wet the bed with me inside of it, which is not great, not ideal. And so I said, Kurt, you got to get up. You got to go change your clothes. And I got up and changed the sheets. And he comes back, and he has removed his contacts and put on glasses, but he is still wearing the same clothes. And I said, Kurt, you did the wrong thing. You got to go back. But even that wasn't really the moment. The moment when I really realized things weren't going well was I was minding my own business, watching television, and he runs in, jumps on me, and farts, and starts laughing hysterically. And that was the moment when I really started to wonder if we were the same kind of person after all. Because Kurt had this dream. He had a dream of one day buying a boat and drifting aimlessly around on the ocean, doing nothing for the rest of his life. And while I could appreciate that dream and its romanticism and the do-nothingness of it, I also couldn't really picture myself on this boat watching Family Guy and being farted on for the rest of my life. So I thought, what Kurt needs is a goal. He needs a passion. Like not anything big, not anything too lofty or anything like that, because that wasn't what we did, but just something to want to be when he grew up, just so he could grow up just enough past the point of farting on people, farting on innocent bystanders. So I decided what Kurt's passion would be the environment, right? People love the environment. People love whales. People love rainforests. This is going to be great. And plus, Kurt, he golfed a lot and he smoked a lot of pot. And I figured these are two characteristics of a person who's very in tune with nature. So I explained this to Kurt. And he very good-naturedly agreed to declare an environmental studies major. And I decided I was going to take his first class with him, just to help him along. And also because I needed just one science class, any science class at all, to graduate with my journalism degree. And this one sounded like an easy A. It was called Plant Biology 101, Plants and People. I figured it doesn't get any easier than a class called Plants and People. After all, I am a people, so that's half of it taken care of right away. So we show up on the first day of class. We sit in the back, of course. That's who we are, the underachievers. And we're kind of drawing on each other's notebooks. We're that annoying couple in college. And our professor comes in, Professor Glenn Matlack. And he is dressed head to toe like a lumberjack. He's wearing a red flannel shirt, suspenders, big boots, and he's even carrying an axe, which I didn't even know was allowed on a college campus. And I keep waiting the entire lecture for him to explain why he is dressed as a lumberjack. Never does. Comes back the next day, same outfit, no explanation. He comes into class every single day dressed as a lumberjack and never addresses it, not once. And I start to think, I really want to know, but I'm also a little scared that he's crazy, so I don't want to bring it up. But after a while, I stop thinking about the axe, and I start actually listening to what he's talking about. And what he's talking about is forest fragmentation, which is this thing that I've never heard of. And what it means is when people move out to the suburbs and forest starts getting fragmented as people move in, it means the forest is in smaller pieces. So animals with big home ranges, which is the area that they roam during their lifetimes, they can end up roaming outside these small fragments of forest and interacting with humans in possibly negative ways. It means that it changes forest conditions because with smaller pieces, there's less interior forest and there's more forest edge, which means the forest is getting permeated by more wind and light and noise, which totally changes the conditions, makes it uninhabitable for some animals, makes it more susceptible to things like fire and pollution. And I had never known about any of this because I'd grown up my whole life in the suburbs, and I always thought suburbs are the environmentally friendly option, right? Because we have trees. And this is totally shattering all of my delusions that I grew up with. And my mind is totally blown, and I turn to Kurt to see if his mind is blown. And he's either stoned or zoned out or asleep with his eyes open. It's kind of hard to tell which one. But we get this assignment in class, and our assignment is to take an aerial photo of our hometown from when we were born and an aerial photo from the present day and compare them, map out the forest coverage, see how it's changed, and write this big paper on the impact on the environment. Kurt decides it's too much trouble even to get the photos. He just makes up all of his numbers and goes back to watching Family Guy. But me, I get really into it. I'm with my compass, measuring things, making all kinds of calculations. I'm getting very concerned about the eastern wood rat. I'm having a lot of feelings about voles. And I work harder on this than I ever have on anything in my life. And Kurt, he comes in, he offers me some gushers, and I say, no, Kurt, I don't have time for you. I'm having a lot of feelings about the timber rattlesnake, and I can't focus on you right now. And so we turn in this big paper, and we get it back a week later, and I am shocked because on the front of my paper, Professor Glenn Matlack has written in red ink, "You have a future in this." And nobody has ever told me I have a future in anything, much less plant biology, of all things. And I turn to Kurt, and I look at his paper, and he has a D. He's supposed to have a future in this, and he has a D. And he says, well, I guess it's a pretty good grade considering I made up all of my numbers, and I'm like, yeah, I guess that's probably true. But Clint Matlack was wrong. I did not have a future in plant biology, not directly, not anyway, but I also did not have a future with Kurt, because what I learned through this experience was that I wasn't meant to drift aimlessly. I had it in me to work hard and to maybe someday make a difference in something important. And so now today, what I do is I work with a nonprofit that I helped found that helps scientists talk about their science and talk about their work in compelling ways, so they can talk to people like me, just like Professor Clint Matlack did, and get them excited and get them interested in the first time for the first time in science. And we have a show just like this and a podcast. And it's not, saving the whales or saving the rainforest, but it's also not wasting away in Margaritaville. And I'm happy. So the last day of Plant Biology 101, Plants and People, I worked up the courage to go talk to Professor Clint Matlack because I had to know. I couldn't let him walk out of my life without finding out. And so I said, Professor, I need to know, why did you dress up like a lumberjack every day for class? And he looks at me and he kind of laughs and he goes, I was just fucking with you guys. And he walks away. Thanks, guys.